Just buy me flowers every day and keep that butthole open, buddy.
Woo!
See?
Flowers and buttholes.
I assume we're already going, right?
Buttholes. We're actually on? We're live?
Oh, get into your suit. What are you doing?
I
my
already
God.
am.
He looks terrible. I apologize
Wait, I'm just going to go
for
like
my
this.
fat friend.
All right. Ready to go? I signed on the dotted line.
You got to wrestle Kane now.
I don't think I've ever actually signed on a dotted line. I've signed on like lines, but never actually dotted line. Why is it sign on the dotted line?
I don't know. I used to love in wrestling when they brought out the contract for the guy to sign, and it was like a big ordeal, but then it just always led to the guy was about to sign it, and then he gets hit with a chair.
Of course. Or someone slides in and, usually a chair, but something's going to happen. How about Stone Cold? How awesome was that?
I was so pumped. I was like literally standing up and like cheering.
Did you know?
Like I was a little kid.
Have you talked to him? Did you know what was going on? Because you've been helping him out a little bit and staying in touch.
Yeah, no, I had no idea, and so I was really excited. My brother texted me, and he's like, he just typed in Stone Cold like twice, and I just went right to Monday Night Raw and started.
Wow, you drifted right back into like your New York at Raw.
Yeah, Raw.
Yeah. We was watching Raw on Monday night.
It was awesome.
That was.
I love that.
Crazy.
Like, I love how they built it up and they just kept milking it, and you knew that McMahon was going to get a goddamn stunner. McMahon's speech was great about how he's getting old and he can't see and he can't do this and he can't do that. He's like, Steve, I can't, get involved in this kind of thing anymore, confrontations. But then he sells his son.
His son gets sold up the river again for, how many times has that happened?
Oh my God. And his son got 2 stunners.
It's amazing. Since you were a wrestler and, know Steve Austin, know John, how actually talented is the McMahon family as far as like knowing how to move and wrestle? You can't just take a stunner and there's a whole process to the whole thing. You got to actually understand how to move and know what's going on. And he's been doing this for Christ, how long at this point? Like 40 years?
Yeah, Vince McMahon is probably about 70, like 1 or 2, or at least close to that. I mean, he's getting up there in age, and he always stays in good shape. Last I heard, and now this is several years ago, is that he hit a 600-pound squat. He was a big fan of doing box squats, I remember. So it was probably like a high cheated Dave Tate / Mark Bell squat. But nonetheless,
at 70 years old,
nonetheless, strong guy, still moving around some weight.
Awesome.
And always staying in shape. And then with Shane has gotten into the ring and done some pretty crazy shit, where he jumps from one side of the ring to the other and kicks the guy in the head with that drop kick move.
He was active. Like that was that when Raw really kind of blew up, when he kind of jumped in and he kind of took the company over from Vince, or they split it somehow and there was that big feud and everything.
Yeah, it was.
But he was in the ring.
Yeah.
Fairly often.
Yeah, he's in the ring a lot.
He was in the ring a lot, and he was wrestling.
Yeah.
He
would
would
say
come out there.
Wrestling was really at its peak, maybe a little bit before that, just because that's when you had The Rock, Stone Cold, The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley. Like it was just.
And then you had WCW too.
Yeah, and then
going on, kind of up against, and you had the whole.
That had to feel good. To just fucking buy out the competition and be like, all right, this is done.
But he did that brilliantly, because he sent his son over, and then they had this big like rival everything over, and then they just brought everything kind of together.
Yeah, the fighting back and forth was really good.
It was so good.
But Vince is so talented that he understands that having like the boss in the ring versus Stone Cold is like epic, right? But he would never do anything that jeopardized the company. So he got in such good shape that he actually did full-on matches with people.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was some, great gifted wrestling talent or anything, but he
wasn't a jobber either.
No, he figured out a way to make it work. And then, he ended up like winning the Royal Rumble and like all kinds of crazy shit. I could be wrong. There could be a couple of wrestling fans that are getting all pissed off, but I do remember, he had some epic battles with Stone Cold, and coming out in those black jeans, the black kind of acid wash jeans that were way too tight with the black tank top. But he was jacked.
Not a great look like overall. But yeah, I mean, especially considering his age at that point. I mean, this is what 10. This is close to 20 years ago, I guess. Really, when he was doing it, still at over 50 years old, he's still
Vince
doing
McMahon knows what the fuck he's doing.
All the time.
He took big jacked people and had them fucking battle it out, and he just didn't care. He wanted them to be bigger all the time, Andre the Giant, shit like that.
Yeah.
And you look at like Strongman, and Strongman has that same feel.
Yep.
How many weight classes are there at the Arnold Classic? There's 0.
None.
And they do have some women's stuff here and there, but it's rare for anybody to talk or even care that much about it. It's not nearly as popular. People want to see the biggest, strongest, baddest dudes lift the heaviest shit.
Yep.
And I think in pro wrestling it was the same. It was like a freak show. It was one person after another. Being either super athletic or jacked. And you talk about wrestling talent. And the reason why Stone Cold is such an important piece of the puzzle is, and The Rock in some ways, but Stone Cold was just amazing as an actual wrestler.
Yeah.
And then obviously when he got the microphone and stuff, he knew what to do with it then. Yeah. And he knew what the crowd wanted. He knew how to really work the crowd. And then The Rock was like on another level, but in a different way. The Rock was just insanely entertaining. And The Rock had just crazy work ethic in the ring as well, but was maybe just more athletic than Stone Cold. So those two guys were pivotal.
University of Miami as a football player.
Oh my God. I know that. I mean, that's just, that gives you an idea of,
that's when the U was the U.
Yeah.
Or was becoming the U, I guess. I mean, but that's when they were, about as, the baddest of the bad that there could be.
So last time you and I podcasted together, we got talking about some old times of powerlifting, the WPO days and stuff like that. And
it was so fun. Those are great memories. Yeah. And I mean, even when we were done, we were walking out the door, and we just kept talking about it. We got asked questions about all sorts of other stuff too. So yeah, it was great fun, good stuff.
Yeah, we love that. Love that intensity.
So fun.
With raw powerlifting, comes a lot of intensity too. I mean, you're going to bring it every single time that you lift, and you're going to put the most into it that you possibly can. But the fear factor is kind of different. It's not on the same level because the weights just aren't the same.
Right.
You might have I think with just knee wraps on, I think you've squatted over 700 pounds. Mm-hmm. The huge difference between that and then handling 900 pounds.
Yeah.
Even though both represent maxes in some way. But the feel is different, and a lot of components of it are just different, and you got to get fucking fired up for it.
You do. And I mean, I always felt better, honestly, in equipment. I always felt that.
Yeah.
I at least knew where everything kind of was, whether it was a kinesthetic feel of the suit or whatever it was. And I don't know if safe is the word, but felt a little bit better.
Safe, but scared.
Yeah. I mean, when you stand up with something, whether it's, sleeves and a belt or, wraps in a belt, if you're not, a little wrong in the head, you're standing up with pretty much nothing. And,
right.
It's a whole different ball game. But, I mean, if you train for it, both, physically and mentally, I mean,
you train and work with a lot of people, and you got Jeremy Avila, who has deadlifted 840 or something, or
856. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
At 220.
Yeah, Jeremy's a beast. I haven't really seen a lot of lifters be that explosive.
No.
And just kind of be wound that tight when he goes to lift. And it's exceptional to watch. But you have a lot of great lifters. You have many lifters break world records over the years and stuff. What do you think about getting fired up? Is it like an individual thing, or do you want to see people get fired up?
Well, personally, for me, I want to see people kind of go nuts and get going. And I mean, we always talk about, your opener should kind of build confidence and momentum. Second attempt.
You got really good rules about that.
Yeah. Second attempt, you should be, either at or, right below or at a PR. And third, it's just, get cocky. You know what I mean? It's just do whatever you want. So as you kind of go into those attempts, I think, getting more and more fired up should kind of be there.
Makes sense too. You can't get cocky unless you've done something.
Yeah,
first,
you got to get confident and then kind of roll into cocky as you kind of go. And it's
cocky.
Oh man,
I had to slide that in there.
Boom.
It was a family show for a few seconds.
Almost a big thumbs up from Smokey over there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I like to see people attack. You know what I mean? I want to see them at their best. And, you know, some people are a little bit more calm and collected. Some people need to get a little bit nuts. And then there are some people where I think like they're too calm, like Tiny Tiff. I'm just like, can you care about this lift? It's 3.5 times your body weight. If you would get just this much, think about someone stole your Totino's pizza rolls and you just get pissed off and like go attack it.
Yeah.
But she's just so much more kind of zen and calm about it. And, someone like Jeremy, when he pulled 826 at the U.S. Open like 2 or 3 years ago, Zahir was there, and Zahir's just madman. So I was just like, hey, come over, help me get him ready. This is, you know, a big lift. So Zahir actually called his third attempt. He's like,
Zahir is absolutely insane,
out of his mind.
He sends me DMs all the time of him with like a machine gun. And then him lifting, and it'll say like and it'll say "fackin" every time.
Yeah.
FAAKING.
Yep.
Let's fackin' go. And I don't know what it means, but I always just write back thanks.
That's all. Well, I mean, at least he's getting a response. It's good. That's I get the same ones, and but anyway, I was like, hey, let's get him fired up. This is a big lift for him. He's like, okay. So I kind of, you know, talk Jeremy through everything, whatever, and then he's at the chalk bowl. Give him his ammonia. I give the ammonia to Zahir, and I walk away because I want to see the show. Pops the ammonia open, throws it in
I
Jeremy.
thought you were going to say Zahir just snapped it for himself.
So puts it in front of Jeremy. Jeremy's, you know, doing this. Then he starts just hitting him on the back. And eventually, during one of them, as he was going to the next one, Jeremy kind of like scooted out of the way.
He tried to run away.
He ran to the platform. It was the first time I've ever seen someone run to the platform.
That's great.
And he just kind of ran to the platform, and then he had to kind of adjust himself and, you know, probably get back to consciousness. And then he kind of walked up to the bar and he pulled it. So, I mean, not everyone can kind of handle that, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who, especially in my opinion, the squat, you know, it's a very, very technical lift.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much that could go wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're going to get nuts, the deadlift is the time to get nuts.
Right.
And I mean, that's when you can kind of, even if maybe you're not the most technical of people, you can kind of grind things out, or, you know, however you want to end up doing it.
You think it matters a ton? You know, getting fired up, like it's being prepared, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but you can't be half asleep either, right?
Right, but I mean, you know, me beating the shit out of you isn't going to add 30 pounds to your bench.
That'd be great if it
did. Right, if it did, I think more people would do it. You know, I mean, but there are times when people just aren't there.
Yeah,
and you're like, can you focus? Can you just like kind of dial in?
I think we've all had that feeling.
Absolutely.
Like you go to lift and for whatever reason, maybe it's the feedback you got from the previous set, or maybe it's feedback you got from training, or maybe there's some pain going on, but you grab the bar and you have like an emptiness inside you. It's like hollow. Yeah. It's like you're like, holy fuck, there ain't shit there. I got no reserve. Right. I got nothing left. When I did the Fit Expo years ago, before it became a popular thing, I remember I was getting ready for my lift, and I just started kind of, you know, storming back and forth, and you were like gonna like probably pep talk me or something, and you just kind of looked at me and you're like, go find whatever the fuck you need to find and go do it.
Yeah.
And that was great because like you kind of knew I was like soul searching kind of thing. I was just running through. Sometimes you got to give a lifter some space, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you understood. You know, me yelling at you or doing something else, you're already working through whatever the hell is going on in your head.
Right.
And I was like, it's out there. Go find it, man. Just get nuts, get out there. You know where it is. And I mean, it is one of those things where, you know, if you would have come up to me and, you know, then we would have, you know, then I would have started yelling at you or something. But you were just, you're in your own thing, and all, you know, you just got to make sure that the person gets to the platform.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there are people who will just get nuts and they could time out, or they just miss it, or they overhype. You know, we've seen that a bunch where people just get the shit kicked out of them before they even get there. And then they almost look like they're knocked out before they can even grab the bar.
I remember Chuck Vogapool literally knocked someone down, and they had to like rewrap the guy. Dave Tate was like, he's got his head up his ass. He's like, go up there and fucking hit him.
And he like ran.
Chuck was like, all right. And he just tapped him, and the guy was just boom.
Absolutely.
The guy was out. So then they had to like sit him down and like fucking rewrap him and everything, and they stopped the meet, and then the next guy, it got all complicated real quick.
It's there's a fine line, and then you wouldn't want to hear someone, someone who hadn't been training with you or, wasn't a teammate or anything to kind of get you hyped up as well. Someone needs to know how to kind of push your buttons.
Yeah.
And know how to get you onto that platform in the best form possible. So, I mean, if there's someone just foreign or someone you don't understand, kind of getting you going, it becomes a lot harder. With Zahir and Jeremy, that was an easy thing because Jeremy would look at what he would do all the time and he just loved it. So it's like, oh, I know he's gonna just love Zahir, kind of just make him go nuts.
We've seen sometimes, like I've seen from lifters, sometimes the bigger the production, the more energy that goes into it, kind of the more I think that maybe you recognize, like, this is intimidating, and I probably don't have what it takes, so I got to kind of do a special routine just to get to the weight. And sometimes even if that special routine does bring you what you want and you do make the lift, sometimes it can be a bad habit to get into that because the meat might not provide that for you, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not only you kind of creating or having a certain way about doing things. A lot has to do with the surroundings and who you're lifting with and, what's going on at the meet. I mean, it's really hard to get pumped up for a third deadlift when you've made your opener squat and your opener bench. It's like, this has not gone well today. Like, no. Let's focus on your pull. I'm like
this day is going all the
let's
shit.
Let's go focus on some chicken wings. That's what I'm really interested in. So it's hard to really kind of keep people.
Yeah, where are we eating after the meet?
Keep people reeled in for something that during a meet that maybe hasn't really kind of gone their way. And it's always impressive to see someone who hasn't had a great day and pull something out, literally.
It's unbelievable.
Deadlift.
Or they miss a second attempt deadlift and they come back and make it. You're like, how the fuck they do
and
that?
And then they come back and they add more weight and come back and get it, or just something out of the blue where they do that. So I mean, it's going to be so personal dependent. And I think one of the things that everyone out in podcast land needs to kind of understand is that because you wear a flame beanie and like go fucking crazy doesn't mean you're gonna Chuck Vogapol your last deadlift. That's a personal thing that Chuck has been doing forever. That's not an act. That's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
You can't steal someone's act and expect the same kind of results. If you need to
don't be playing fucking patty cake with that goddamn chalk ball. That's my move.
There you go. I stole that once. Brian stole that too at the meet. He did good.
He did.
But it's
5 taps.
It's one of those things where you have to kind of find your own thing. And it's people want to grab something that's either cool or they've seen somebody else do, but it's if that works for you, that's great. But usually it has to be something original and your own for it to really be something and mean something.
A routine that can make you more uncomfortable doing something that's uncomfortable, equivalent to a basketball player shooting a free throw.
Right.
He can dribble the ball a couple times, he can spin it, but he doesn't have the luxury of putting on like his favorite song and doing, whatever he wants with the ball. He's got a certain amount of time to shoot it and get it over with.
Yeah.
But so like within reason, I myself have always liked to get, like I've always liked training more than I like meets. So I was always like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to do whatever. I'm going to do anything and everything I can to make the lift in the meet because that's what makes me feel good.
Right.
And gives me confidence going into the contest. And I know there's research of like, you can kind of blow out your central nervous system by stimulating it too much. And you got the people that will say, oh, just do 6 sets of 6 and like no music and like and that's hard for me. It doesn't fit my personality well. I also just, for whatever reason, maybe I'm lazy or I'm not sure what it is, but I really don't like multiple sets unless we're doing kind of more dynamic work. So if you tell me like 6 sets of 6 and I got to use the same weight, I'm like, I can't. I feel so bored. I feel trapped.
Yeah, and
that's not effective. I just personally feel trapped.
And I think that's why I gravitated more towards a conjugate style of training as well. Is whether it's a ADD thing or just some sort of concentration thing, it's just not there. If I have to do, and especially if it's not only do I have to do that day,
right?
But you're gonna tell me I have to do it Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday in somewhat of the same bracket.
It's like don't get hyped, just fucking hit your lifts.
Just hit your lifts and do this stuff or whatever. But I've always preferred kind of a conjugate to where you're when you're doing your dynamic stuff, it's all about trying to get yourself in a little bit better shape, moving perfectly, producing great force. On max effort days, it's go fucking nuts. And then the drop down sets, that's when you and the accessory stuff, that's where you really get the work in. But it's something that I've always gravitated more to because it matched my personality.
Yeah.
My attention.
Well, we love all that. That's that's
so fun.
That's why we were attracted to a lot of the West Side stuff. We loved those old videos of those guys getting hyped up and cranking some fucking AC/DC.
Yeah. The people who like Mike Teixeira is always my example.
How does he do it? He totals over 2,000 pounds in his garage.
In his garage with no music, no spotters, no anything. Sometimes not even spotter bars. So I mean, he could just drop. He could just fall straight down.
So
and
ridiculously
that's just strong. It. He's unbelievably strong, and people who can do that, more power to him. It's awesome. And I mean, someone like Blaine Sumner who will lift by himself, put a shirt on. First of all, put a shirt on by himself.
But he goes crazy when
he goes nuts. Yeah, but that's so good.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
So good. I remember I still have
that really fits his personality really well.
Totally.
He's funny and he's outgoing. First time I met him, he just walked up behind me, and I've never met him before this, and he's just like, "You are so much fatter in person." And I turn around, I'm like, and I didn't recognize him because I've never met him before. So I was like, "Who the?" And I was like, oh, "Okay." Blaine Sumner. I was like, that was awesome.
That was awesome.
I appreciate it. I thought it was fucking fun.
No, he's actually he's a great guy. He's so incredibly nice and very genuine.
Loves like fish and hunt and shit.
Yeah, he's a real dude's dude. And but he's awesome. He's great to talk to. Very generous with his time.
Right.
Always very generous with his advice and everything. And he's just a psychopath.
What about like you talked about Zahir hitting Jeremy and stuff. Do you hit some of your lifters?
I'll hit people like kind of on the upper
on
back.
The tushy?
No, not so much. Kind of right around here-ish.
Right. Kind of wake you up a little bit.
Yeah, just kind of not enough to. It makes a really good sound.
Right.
So it's more of a show thing than anywhere else. Makes a good sound, a good big slap.
More like the old steel chair to the back.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing. Makes a good sound. Kind of just enough to make you feel a little bit of sting.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of run out there. And then, the whole goal there is, hopefully you don't feel the sting of the bar anymore. So
there was that old video of you getting hit by your coach.
Yeah.
And then like it's amazing to watch because you're getting ready for a big squat and coach is trying to get you hyped, and he kind of, I can't remember exactly what he did, but he kind of ended up hitting you in the face, I think.
Yeah,
I think maybe he was like trying to do something a little different, but it didn't work out that way, and he slapped you. And then you took like a half a step, and then you were like, wait a second, this motherfucker just slapped me. And you're like, fuck that. And you just chuck his ass out of the way.
Yeah. He wanted to slap me for the longest time. And I just wasn't interested in it because it was going to fuck me up.
Right.
And
it wasn't going to help.
Yeah. And I told him, I was like, don't, not necessarily right then, but I told him in the past, I was like, don't hit me. I don't want to be hit. And I even told him, I was like, if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back, first of all. So, I mean, you got to, be ready for that. So, yeah, there was kind of a delay, and it was kind of just like, I think I put the chalk down, and then I just hit him and then shoved him out of my way. And that was kind of that.
His hat went flying off.
Hat went flying, and I mean, he had a big hand mark across his face. So, it was a good show. Unfortunately, I ended up missing the lift.
Oh,
I know. So I mean, you put on this good big show and then all for naught. But it was I think that's the only time I've really been slapped going up for a lift so much.
I don't know what the hell I would do. I get pretty charged up, so I don't know.
I didn't even think of it.
Yeah,
it was just a reaction,
like that, yeah.
And I knew that would be my reaction because if I'm gonna get hit, I'm gonna hit you right back, and good, bad, or otherwise. And I knew that it was if that would happen, but I didn't plan it. Like, wait till Ted hits me, I'm gonna slap the shit out of him. It wasn't anything along those lines. It just kind of happened, and then that was that. But I've never hit anybody in the face. Just mostly kind of some slaps on the back. And just trying to get somebody fired up. What's always puzzled me is what is in the water in Reno, Nevada, that makes those guys just literally slapping the shit out of each other on their way to the platform when we start all the way going back to Chad Ikes.
Oh, yeah.
All the way to like this new version of everyone coming from American Iron again with Jesse and all those other guys up there. Just pounding on me, and it's like it's a group thing too. Yeah. Like there's one guy lifting, and there's three guys just absolutely just hitting him in the face and the back, and it's just coming from all angles and ways. What is going on in Nevada that is making these, that somehow makes this the thing that everyone has to do?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but yeah, people love it. People love to like smack the shit out of each other for some reason. If I'm going up to the platform, somebody smacks me on the back a little bit. Yeah, it feels good because it gets you alive a little bit. I think the Russian lifters, they do some like strategic stuff, which I don't really know exactly what they're doing, but I don't know if you've ever seen the Olympic lifters like pull on the guy's ears.
Yep.
And they sometimes will kind of slap the guy. I think mainly it has to do with just making your skin sting a little bit.
Right.
I think it just might get your central nervous system fired a little bit. So I can understand like a certain amount of it, but to like get fucking just whack, go up to somebody and just deck them doesn't make.
I thought one of them like blew his nose out because of a squat, and it was because he got slapped going up to it, and his nose was bleeding because of kind of the height move going all the way up.
Yeah.
So it's just more power to them. Those guys are awesome. I love having them at the meets because they bring so much energy and intensity to things. But I just kind of watch it and I'm like, that poor guy is just.
People are watching. They're like, wait, what's happening?
Is this some sort of gang fight before or during the meet? It's amazing. Those guys are great, and I mean they lift awesome, and I mean they're just as intense as can be, and it's always fun. But that's always been not necessarily the way that I've always approached things.
So you've been in a lot of different gyms over the years, and you've had to kind of restructure things and redo things and reinvent yourself many different times with your powerlifting career and with your business, with your situation with your children and everything. And tell us a little bit about, first of all, what is it that you do, so we get that out of the way, and tell us about where you started or how you got started.
So I run powerlifting gym inside CSA gym in Dublin, California. And I have 2,000 square feet dedicated to strength and conditioning. And I have a powerlifting team there. I also have my athletes and personal training in the new facility, which we actually just moved to in August. I've been with CSA for probably like 5-ish years or so, and this is our third location kind of, and each time kind of getting bigger and better. And credit to Kieran and MJ for believing in me and kind of letting me do what I wanted to do. Coming from I was at a gym prior to it, and then I moved to CSA gym.
And how'd you make some of this happen? Because I know that you were in like a club environment. So
right, well,
there's people listening to the show that want to get into personal training, or maybe they already are a personal trainer, and maybe they don't love where they're at. Maybe they would like to figure out something a little different.
Right. So I mean, when I moved here from the East Coast and moved to the San Francisco area, I got a job at Club One, which is a commercial fitness facility. And
it's a big ass corporate kind of club
corporate
type
gym.
thing.
Yeah, it was in downtown San Francisco. And I was really lucky to where I landed because the manager there was also a chiropractor, and he went out and he hired occupational therapists, physical therapists, and people specializing in elder populations in particular.
Club One is a huge franchise, so working there and being around other people that were professionals was probably good for you, right?
It was amazing because I got to walk in very luckily as like, oh, you're an ex-athlete kind of strength guy or interested in strength. And at that time I had my CSCS, and that's what I wanted to work on, more kind of the sports, more of the athlete side of things. So Daryl saw that, and when he hired me, and I've told this story I think on Kyle's podcast, and I had the morning shift, so I'd be there from 5:30 until 2:00. Daryl would come in around like noon, and we would just sit there, and he would give me stuff to read. It was homework, and then we would also just sit there and watch people walk and watch people move. And then he would say, "What do you think about this person?" And we would just start to kind of develop a running kind of block for each person that we would kind of see. Like, okay, this person seems to be, leaning this way, or they're, kyphotic, they're rolled over, very anteriorly rotated. And it taught me a lot about how people move and what dysfunction looks like. and also what function actually looks like.
That's the worst when you start to learn some of that, because then you just look around and you're like, everyone's fucked.
It's everywhere.
You're
exactly.
standing in line at Starbucks and you're like, you want to nudge the guy in front of you and be like, dude, fucking straighten your shit out.
I mean, I talked to Kelly about this. I was like, can you ever not see it? He's like, no.
Can't honestly.
Can't. He can't just go to, like Disneyland and walk around and not just be like, oh my God.
Well, and we're all guilty of it too. Even when you are conscious of it and you're trying, you're like, oh my God, I'm standing like shit.
Yeah.
Or I'm sitting like shit.
But you know what? That alone right there, just knowing it, or even just reminding yourself like, oh yeah, Kelly, Jesse, or Mark told me just to try and stand up a little bit. But as long as, if you can start to do that, you'll build, you'll end up building it into a habit. So it's that was pretty much my homework. And we would just sit there until I would get more and more clients. And then whenever I could, I would be sitting with Daryl going over stuff. He would stretch me. I would stretch him. We would talk anatomy. He's the one who pushed me to go to massage therapy school, to go get my ART certification, to do a whole bunch of stuff.
So continued education.
Yeah, tons of, I actually just, I got the question today about someone like, hey, should I go back to school to get like a kinesiology biomechanics degree, or should I just go and do a bunch of seminars or get a bunch of different certifications? And obviously it's going to be a personal thing, an ultimate end goal is going to be what you should focus on. But in general, if you're going to want to work with people, you're already working with people, going to a seminar with Dr. Stuart McGill, or going and seeing Stan and Ed's seminar, going to see Paul Quinn or someone along those lines, that's going to give you so much more practical and immediately usable knowledge. Because a lot of times, those professors who are teaching you anatomy, phys, or something along those lines, yeah, it's cool. You get to dissect some stuff and really kind of take a look at what musculature actually does. But they're never going to actually be able to tell you what a 35-year-old person with lower back injuries, ankle injuries, old athlete, and 30 pounds overweight, fix them. Like, that person doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
But people who've done it before are like, oh yeah, that's a piece of cake, no problem. Like, oh, okay, cool. That's the knowledge that you end up kind of wanting, especially if, working with individuals or teams or whatever. If that's your end goal, you need to find the people who have done it before and, learn from them. And then you can kind of continue your career that way. And you know what? That's the whole thing where if you are a trainer at 24 or something and you eventually want to go and do something else, you can keep that going on and just go to these seminars and just, find some stuff out. And what's going to really, what separated me was me taking all the strength stuff that I was going out there and learning from everybody and applying it to the clients that I had. These people are CEOs, that's when the .com boom was going on. So I had a bunch of these, like computer wizards. They're all box squatting. We had chains, kettlebells, all this other stuff. And
be able to empower them just with some of the knowledge you have.
Empower them, but also attract a lot of other people, because they're like, that guy is doing something I've never seen. That guy just did it with 400 pounds, and that's a client. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, how'd that fat 45-year-old guy just squat 400 pounds?
Yeah, and I mean, that was, that's how, I think kind of my reputation grew and got to a point where I was basically only doing clients. I was doing 8 to 10 clients a day, 5 days a week. And eventually, when the girls were born, I moved out to Pleasanton and started working at a CrossFit there, and wasn't able to keep everybody. Some people actually followed me out to from San Francisco out to the East Bay, and then kind of just built everything up again in the Pleasanton area. And I think when we started the seminars was pretty much when my exit from CrossFit Pleasanton started. Because of a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
But, I needed more space and I needed to be able to do more things. And luckily when I moved over to CSA,
you need more freedom.
When I moved over to CSA, I was like, hey man, I may not have everything that I need right now, but you give me some room to grow and you just leave me alone. I'm going to make this thing happen, and it'll be a really, really good thing. And again, credit to, Kieran and MJ for believing in me and kind of letting me do that and kind of giving me rope. Whether I hang myself with it or whether I,
climb with it.
Yeah, climb with it. That was all up to me. So it was it's been a process for sure. But anyone out there who is trying to find what they're trying to do, I think, if you can kind of keep doing what you're doing and learning from the clients that you have, and figuring out what works and figure out a system for yourself, and just adding knowledge on top of that.
You have to be active. I mean, even if you have to sometimes do stuff for free, or I mean, with your active release therapy and stuff, it's probably, you know, especially at the time you were doing it, it's probably kind of unconventional. You're like, oh, I know how to help fix that.
Right.
But it's not like you gave them your chiropractic card. So it's different. So it's not like you're just like, oh yeah, it's $150. It's probably just, hey, I can fix that. Let me help you. Then they recognize what you can do for them. And you say, well, we can take this further and we can do A, B, C. And then now because you have the education and because they had the result from it, now you could probably say, okay, yeah, it's going to be, you know, for me to do that, it takes me more time.
Right.
And you've always been good with that. Like when I've trained people for many years, but not professionally and not for as long as you have in the same capacity. And my whole thing, anytime we went to do seminars, or even just when somebody online would ask me a bunch of questions, I'd always shoot them over to you.
Right.
We were at one seminar in Colorado, which was a funny timing by us because that's when they had marijuana legal at the time, and everybody was all hyped up and they thought that's why we were there. They're like, "Are you guys gonna get high? You're gonna do this? You're gonna do that?" And then the gym just happened to be right next to a dispensary.
Next to a dispensary too. It smelled like we were
people were celebrating like literally in the streets. Right?
It was amazing.
But you know, I
it was so snowy too, and people. I remember seeing somebody walk to their car and just totally wiping out on their way out there. It was awesome.
I remember working.
But it was.
I remember working with somebody at that seminar, and it wasn't clicking. I was not able to. So I was like, just go see Jesse. And then there was that epic time where I was with you and Katie, and we were doing a seminar in LA, and kind of the same thing happened. And I was trying to teach a guy how to do glute ham raises.
Yep.
And I'm trying to say it like in as many different ways as I can, but for some reason he wasn't understanding that he needed to like bend his leg.
Right. No, he needed to straighten his legs.
Oh, he needed to straighten.
He had his.
He just kept moving his back.
Kept moving, almost like a good morning. And you're like, no, sir, because I heard this. I'm talking to someone and I hear you, and it was.
I'm like, just like you're standing up straight. Like you got to move your leg. You got to unflex your leg is bent. You got to unflex it. You got to straighten out your legs. And then he would just move his back. Yeah. And I was like, that's not the exercise. And I keep going back and forth. And then Katie came over and she starts yelling at this guy too. And we're going back and forth and we're all trying to get this guy to do the exercise. He's not understanding it. She gets up there and she shows him. I get up there and I show him and he's still not getting it. And then finally, Katie and I just look at each other like, go see Jesse.
Yeah, that was great.
we can't handle this anymore. We're so stressed out.
I can still remember. I can still hear it. It's like, no, sir, you need to straighten your legs out. Okay, your legs are still bent. Let's see if you can straighten them.
Not your back, your legs.
No. Okay, so you're bending at your waist. I need you to straighten your legs as if you were going to try and stand up and just be this way. You're bent like this. Okay, Katie, can you show him real quick?
I think it might have been in the same seminar where that guy tore a pec too. Remember that?
Yeah, God. That was
some guy's like, well, my pec was bothering me before I got here, but I wanted to try a PR. We're like, what?
Yeah. I think that was really the only
injury,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like that we had at our seminars. That was it was amazing that he actually got that far. I mean, that was
it's just, the second that you turn your back,
they're going to do it anyway. So yeah, at least one of us was there to spot him.
We would preach the whole time. Remember, we'd get up in front of everybody and we'd tell them exactly how we wanted things to look and the whole entire point. We would teach people. We're like, there's an intent of every day that you work out. Every time, just for anybody who doesn't know that.
Yes.
Every workout that you ever do in your entire life should always have an intent of the day. And then you can make up whatever the fuck else you want around that, but have an intent. Your intent's to go as heavy as possible. Your intent is to do this. Your intent is to do that. Your intent's to be fast. Whatever it is, you pick an intent, you fucking stick to it.
Right.
And then you can play and kind of mess around with whatever else you want. But at the seminar, we would say the intent for our day, we would talk about the intent and what it was for and what it provided. And we say our intent for today is to just work on our technique and just to work on our form. We're not going to try to move fast. We're not going to try to lift that heavy, but we do need some weight on there.
Right.
And we would say, a good reference point is like 50%. Get to like 50% of where your max is, and then maybe add 20 pounds per set and get a couple extra sets in there of triples.
Right.
Well, as soon as they hear triples, the triples turn into heavy triples. Yes. And those heavy triples, for some reason, every single time always turned into singles.
Absolutely.
Next thing you know, music's blasting. Somebody's trying a 600-pound deadlift.
Yes. And
I think he didn't teach that.
He took like he took a huge jump, like a 70-pound. He put like 35s on or something. It was really bizarre.
What gym has 35s?
Well, I think every gym has. Do you have 35s here?
No.
You don't have any 35s? That's so awesome.
35?
I try and hide my 35s.
They're a myth.
And they make their way back out. And I'm like, God damn it. And especially if they're on like on the rack or anything along those lines, they're just taking up space for 45s or for 25 kilo plates. And 35s are worthless, but they keep finding their way back out.
It's as frustrating or maybe even more frustrating than the 17.5s dumbbells, and you're just like, do we really, is that really a problem?
I really like, it was brilliant. It was a brilliant thing.
Oh yeah, the magnets.
Plate mates.
Yeah.
Like that were just like.
That solves the problem enough.
But I just love it where it's like, oh, well, this week I got to put the plate mates, the 0.25 pound.
Oh, and I was always the guy with the clipboard.
and the physio ball.
Yeah, it's always the dude with the clipboard and the physio ball, and he's like,
and a shirt.
I'm supposed to bench
like that.
I'm supposed to bench 174 this week. You're just like, yeah, buddy.
Like, I don't even know how to put that on the bar.
That looks like it's working out great for you.
No clue. That would be a great thing. Try and borrow a bunch of 35s and just make someone figure out how to put 400 pounds on the bar. I don't know if anyone could do it. Like if Robot was here, that's not fair. He would be able to do
Robot
it.
Pants.
But anybody else, just like, nope, we've outlawed 45s today. We got to use 35s. I think people would just leave.
It gets really confusing when you start using the kilo plates.
And the pound plates.
Oh my God.
It gets really fun.
Then you're not sure.
So I just got a new kilo set over Christmas. So now I have 2 kilo sets, but I also have like 100, 45-pound plates all over the place. So the Avanco set has like black 5s, 2.5s, 1.25 kilo plates, but they look identical to 2.5 pound, 5 pound, and even 10-pound plates. So people are just like intermixing these things and, benching like, wow, that side was really heavy for some reason. I was like, well, you did have, 10 pounds more on one side because you're an idiot and you have a kilo plate over here. So I literally had to go get paint pens and paint the outside edges of all of my kilos to match like the color, some of the other colors to make sure that people don't put those on.
That's the shit.
Because we've seen people, misload stuff and still make them.
Oh yeah.
But we've seen people misload stuff and miss really, really bad as well. But there's nothing worse than taking a bar out on your back or into your hands and you're like, well, I mean, this feels really wrong, but I'm ready to go. Just wing it. I mean, I think the best story who was at Westside who had 6 plates on one side, 5 on the other, and like blue bands, and kind of stood up with it like this, and he kind of put it back and just walked over this way, and then stood up with it and then squatted it.
It was AJ Roberts.
Was it AJ? That makes sense. But I mean, to be able to do that, you're just like, oh, I think I'm just not in the middle here. I'll just move over here, and he squatted it too. It was ridiculous.
Remember how crooked Greg Panora would squat, even when the weight was on there the right way?
Like he had one arm this way and then one arm this way, and the bar would just go here. He put up he still is strong. Yeah, he's amazing. He was at that time. He there was, and I think we weren't at Westside, so we really couldn't tell. But at that time, that was like kind of one of those pro-ams. That's where he kind of took over,
right,
as like the baddest man at Westside, and he kind of took it from Chuck for a little while, and then they started working out together. And you're like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, they were
just complete insanity. I remember a story Greg told me. They were pulling either sumo or conventional, and they worked up to like 800 pounds or something along those lines. And he pulled it. I think he was pulling sumo. He pulled 800 sumo. Chuck pulled 800 conventional, and then Chuck just started shit talking him and just like, you could, blah blah blah. So without even warming up or doing anything else, he just walked over to the bar and pulled it conventional. There's still video of it. He's just like, and then he kind of does it. And he kind of looks at Chuck and like drops the bar. You want to talk about intensity?
Yeah.
To have the balls to just walk back up to 800 pounds after you just pulled it, switch your stance, and just kind of go after it. I mean, Greg was just a complete savage. complete savage at that point, and just
what
baddest
are
man on
some
the
things
earth.
that you have learned and kind of taken from, you're around some mutants like that, and then you're also around people that are really smart. You've had seminars at your gym. You've been to a ton of seminars. You read a lot of books. You get real nerdy. But what's something that you've kind of taken from the mindset of powerlifting, maybe into some of the business that you do?
It's we can get as esoteric as we want, but the common theme across all people who are successful, whether it's lifting, business, family life, whatever, it's just hard work and just sticking to it.
Right.
I mean, Greg will talk about just doing the stuff over and over and over again. And when you're there, that's your focus. You get it. You work as hard as you can,
Right.
and then you're done. And then you go ahead and you do whatever else you do.
You want to be a good trainer, you got to have a lot of reps at it, right?
It's the same thing. Yeah, if you want to be a great coach, you got to see, 10,000 reps, 100,000 reps before you're really competent. You can kind of see something happening at speed. I mean, if you want to, deadlift or whatever, you got to do
something
things
that
right.
helped us so much was just seeing people.
Absolutely.
Just
More than
seeing
anything.
people over and over again, and I can confidently say, like, I can whoop up on most coaches just because, not because I'm great, not because I'm smart, just because of experience. I've seen a lot of people fail in many, many different ways. I've seen a lot of people succeed in many different ways. I've seen many different combinations of things happen, things not happen, people get hurt. And I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot.
This also spans beginners to about as high level of a lifter as you can.
Right.
There was a stretch where I think over a 3-month period, I think we're seeing 30 to 50 people per seminar. And I think we had some ridiculous amount of seminars, like 7.
Right.
So, I mean, we had seen,
right. And then plus in our own gym.
Yeah. We had seen an obscene amount of people lift an obscene amount of times. And you're just gathering all those reps. And then you're able to just see things, almost before they happen.
It's insane, like when I was younger and I was coaching some people and trying to help people, somebody would say, okay, what do you think? They would do a lift and they'd say, what do you think? And I used to immediately, boom, I'd spit something back out. And a lot of times it was like regurgitated from somewhere else, or it was just something that just clicked with me because I didn't have a ton of knowledge.
Right.
So I was just like looking in my memory bank and I'm like, okay, I'm throw this back at them,
Sure.
But as you advance, I don't know if you do this, but when I see somebody lift, they're like, what do you think? And I'm like, and it almost like hurts my head. I'm like, I need to see you lift a couple more times.
Yeah.
I need to watch them lift a couple more times. I might need to see them with more weight. I might need to see, I might need to see them throw a belt on because, if the lifter is going to actually use a belt, that brings in another. I mean, there's various components that happen, and I just think it's kind of funny because as you learn more, you start to learn what's the right combination of words to communicate to this person right now. Because what I tell Jesse might be different than what I tell this guy and what I tell that guy. So it gets to be complicated.
It gets to be really complicated because I mean we're coming back to just communication, right? I mean,
right.
How are you talking to a person? How does somebody learn? You have a bunch of different factors that you have to start to think about when you're dealing with someone. And I'm the same way. Not only do I say like, do that 3 or 4 more times and then I can kind of see something.
Right.
But when they ask me that question, what do you think? It's like, well, how did it feel? And they're going to go ahead and answer the question for me. It's a very Socratic method, because I mean, a lot of times they know it. They're like, that felt awful. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's try something different. And I'm not always going to hit it right on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just going to try a couple things and we're going to pick which one feels best. And we're just going to kind of roll with that. As the weight gets up, it may change again. And we're just going to kind of have to play with it. Those are, very beginner lifters.
Yeah.
And, as the advanced lifters kind of come in, it's much easier. We don't have to go through a whole process of trying to figure some stuff out. Like, okay, cool. And I mean, the advent of, the video on the phone has been huge.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are just like, okay, cool. Do you see when this happens, you have to keep your back tight. You have to do this, or you're flaring your elbows, whatever it ends up being. They're like, oh, I see this now. So now they're getting the kinesthetic awareness of it by doing it. You're telling them, they're hearing it, and visually they're seeing it. So now you're almost hitting all of them, all the learning processes for someone at a time.
Right.
You're hitting it all at once. So if they're one or a combination of all the others, they're going to start to kind of really kind of collect the whole thing. And I always found it, we would always talk about this at the seminars. It's like, learning through violence, where you're just like, here, here. And then you're just like, oh, here. Like, that's why I've been literally punching. Remember, this is another Vogapol story. We were in upstate New York.
Oh, he
killed us. First of all, you ironed his T-shirt before we went to work out.
I remember that. Yeah,
which was strange, but apparently he irons everything.
Yeah, we were like,
and then we were doing just boards, and he was spotting us and literally just punching you're not punching your elbows through. You would just punch our elbows for us to kind of get him through.
He's fucking punching us in the triceps.
But then it made sense.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, just snap. Oh, I wonder if that it just
and then
through.
He was like so mad because my strength was going up on the bench and stuff too. So like his bench wasn't great. And you and I are like hanging with on him some stuff. So I think he just started to like make up stuff to try to kill us. And he did kill us.
He killed us. He overwhelmed us.
Remember Big Tim was there, and Tim's like just shaking his head. He's like, I don't know why you guys are working out with him.
I know.
I'm like, because it's Chuck Vogapol.
Exactly.
He's the best.
We had to. And I don't know if I straightened my arms for the next week. It was amazing.
Oh, he just fucking.
But I mean, there is, ways to do it, and, to try and cue people, not only visually, but auditory, but also kinesthetic, so they can kind of feel it. And then as you get comfortable with the lifter, I can say one word to Jeremy or one thing to Tiff or something, or Lori, who, have been with me for, 2-3 years. And I mean, sometimes it's just like, you make a motion of, chest up, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. So sometimes you don't even have to say a word. But yeah, it's, I do need a couple. And it's like, I think because of, a lot of times we've been in the game so long and we've been doing this, and this is, coaching and everything is what we do. But someone does one thing and they're like, okay, what do I need to do to deadlift 700? Like, you know what? Just keep doing what you normally do, and I'll just kind of correct you as we go. Right. It's not going to be, I'm not going to throw a book at you.
That's the way Louis coached.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to coach, because you'll at least see what they're doing right.
Right.
And you don't want to pummel them with what they're doing wrong. But like, look, let's just try and change this one thing. Let's bring your feet together, work on getting your chest up. Deadlift will be a lot better.
One thing that's for sure is you can get a lot of feedback from a heavy weight.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of feedback from a heavy weight, and if you have a coach there and if you record it, there's a lot of information that you can get from that lift, and you can say, oh, I missed it, and these things happen. But I also don't think that you can really truly gain further knowledge of how you should execute the lift, because when the lift is too heavy, your form is not matching up with the lift itself. And so I think you have to be really careful. It's a fine line. And that gets to be really hard to find that line. But, if you think about football, think about other sports that you play, football in particular, coach would say, hey guys, it's, it's Thursday. We have a game on Saturday. We're going to go 70%, right? And then the next day you go like 60%. But why does the coach want you to have those percentages? Why does he want you to slow the fuck down? It's so that you can learn the proper steps.
Sure.
Certain drills that you might do in basketball or volleyball or any of these things are always broken down. They're always practiced. But for some reason, when it comes to lifting, we're not really practicing. And I think that would be a huge component to somebody being successful with lifting is just slow the fuck down. We already know that you can't lift light all the time. That's not going to work. You can't just work on your form and technique. So you have to you have to go heavy, and you have to challenge yourself. We know that you need that for growth. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
But maybe at the end of a workout or on separate days, maybe you slow everything down, and maybe you just go with a 3 or 4 second count on the way down, 3 or 4 second count on the way up, and just feel every single thing that you're supposed to feel, because you know what you're going to feel when you try 100%? Nothing.
Nothing. And I mean, the reality of the situation is anything over 90% is going to most likely look like shit. And what you can gain from that, what you can learn from that is what to work on so it doesn't look like shit.
Right.
But people are like, yeah, my knee, I felt my knee kind of wiggle in. We're like, yeah, it's 700 pounds.
It was too heavy.
It's just
for your knee to not wiggle in.
Right, exactly. It's sometimes this is going to happen. Right. Like I always think back of Kelly when I missed, 854 or whatever it was. And he was just like, yeah, you really kind of got rounded over like this. And, I think if you were able to, thoracically extend and really work on, pulling back here. And I was like,
go fuck yourself, Sarah. I got an idea.
I said it much nicer. It's like, it was 854 pounds. Yeah, it was just too fun. It was just too heavy. Yeah. It's just that can be an answer. That's okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like it's just too heavy. Like, oh, my form broke down and I didn't do it. Like, right, because it was too heavy. It's not because of you didn't keep your knee out or anything. Sometimes too heavy is an answer.
It's the dumbest doctor we've ever met.
Oh, he's the best. I love Kelly so much.
Shout out to our boy Kelly Starrett and his lovely wife Juliet. They started a podcast.
Did they?
Congratulations!
Finally.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about it forever, so I'm excited for them.
That's great. That's going to be so fun. I think I really love the introduction of Juliet kind of back into, because she was very visible at San Francisco CrossFit for a while, and then not so much, where she was just trying to get the kids moving and everything. So she kind of
makes everything easier for him too. And I usually text her. I don't even bother.
Absolutely.
I ain't bother trying to go to him.
But those two together they're just so great. And I mean, they're just a ball of energy and a ball of fun. And what people don't know about Juliet is she's a lawyer. Yeah. And she's been running not only the CrossFit business, but the mobility WOD side of things for the past 10 years for Kelly.
Yeah.
And for a long time, Kelly was at a seminar every weekend.
Oh, God. Yeah, he crushed
for almost 2.5 years. So, I mean,
they're going to have a lot of fun. They're going to have a lot of fun.
It's going to be so cool. And I mean, just the practical knowledge, and she was a great athlete too.
Right.
I mean, she was a very, very high caliber athlete. So just a wealth of knowledge. That's going to be
getting
really
some
cool
next level education type stuff too, because as he explained it to me, it sounds pretty cool. He's going to have a particular focus for a few weeks at a time, and then he'll move off subject and move on to the next thing. So I think he started out by talking about jeans.
Like blue jeans, like him wearing too tight jeans.
Well, he was talking about like jeans, like cutoff jeans, jorts, like stuff like that.
And puffy and then puffy
acid wash jeans, 3-legged jeans.
That really seems like it's up his alley. That makes a lot of sense.
Back to what we were talking about learning, being able to learn the exercise, be able to learn the movement the proper way. Just think about how kids learn stuff. They learn stuff in like spurts.
They just do it, but they also just repeat it over and over.
They repeat it. They may try something different. Like you're like, hey, try these. Maybe they're playing like hopscotch or something. And when they do the jumps,
they might. Never understood
might.
Hopscotch.
I don't know how to do it.
Which one do you jump into? You have to throw something and then you jump to it, but you have to do like one leg and
I don't
then
know.
two
Is there
legs?
something to throw? I always just would jump on those.
There
squares.
is. Yeah. There's something. You just jump through it.
Apparently, I've been playing it wrong for a long time.
So you're not hopscotch champion of the world, like you say on your bio?
Shuttlecock.
That's
another story for another podcast.
Yes. Also, jarts. Or lawn darts. Was
darts?
It jarts? No. Do you remember jarts? I don't know if people on the West Coast understand how like violent and awful some of the games as kids in the East Coast as we played. We used to have lawn darts. They're just giant darts where you just throw them up in the air. And they're just kids running everywhere. I was like, even as a kid, I was like, I don't think this isn't super safe. Is this?
What's the point of this?
I don't know. You try to throw it into a ring or anything. I don't know. Anyways, you're talking about your hopscotch career. Sorry to derail you on, such a, telling such a great story.
Well, I was just talking to people about how
rise and fall of the hopscotch.
How agile I am.
Yes.
No, like if a kid's going to be playing something and they're jumping around, they're going to try, different ways of doing it. But also kids are going to kind of learn things in spurts. They're going to do something for 10 minutes. They're going to do something for 5 minutes. They lose concentration really quickly. And I think a big mistake that we sometimes make is we're trying to really just do it over and over again. Like somebody might squat for like 2 hours trying to learn it. And that's cool. Like putting in your time is important, but you're kind of frying yourself out too. So just take it like several minutes at a time. You don't need to smash yourself with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think kids, this is also something that we could talk about, ad nauseum for coaching kids. It's like when their attention is gone, when they stop doing it, there's no bringing them back.
Yep.
You kind of just got to let them roam and just, hope that they can kind of not hurt themselves or anything along those lines. But it's just like they're in it. And then once they're gone, there's really no bringing them back. And at that point, there's no positive to try and force them to do something or bring them back or anything along those lines, because it's already gone. If you got 2 or 3 minutes out of them and, able to teach them do something and then they move on to the next thing. I thought one of your best things that I still use to this day that I learned from you as a coach.
Steals everything from me.
Even the 10-minute walk, 11-minute walk. That's what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag BAM. Was when you're coaching your the team at Woodland, the football team, and you're like 3 or 4 people to one mat to one bar. We're gonna deadlift, and then we're gonna do some rows, and then don't get off of that mat.
That's right.
Don't get it, because these kids were good kids. Yeah. They're football kids, but didn't you like leave? You like went to the bathroom, you came back, and there's 245s that got broken somehow.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? They broke a bar. Yeah. Like the ends, both the ends are like, Coach, this broke. Like, no, a bar doesn't break.
Yeah.
What the hell did you guys do? So like, look, stand on that 4x6 mat.
Right.
Don't fucking move. You're just gonna do everything right there.
Every exercise can be right there,
and that's it, and that's all. But that's so brilliant because it keeps them focused, keeps them all, and they understand what they're supposed to do. They don't have to move over here, do all this stuff.
Right.
That's the way that I coach.
There's like 40 kids in there too.
It's for people who can do that sort of thing. It's a talent I only have for a very small amount of time, per day. And there are people who can do it, so much better than I can, and more power to them. And then there's teachers and kind of the same thing, the same ilk. So it but I always took that from you. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Keeps people focused in on one thing.
Yeah,
they get to kind of move on to the next.
Both of us have like built ourselves and built our business simultaneously with our kids being around.
Yeah,
and it's it just throws another monkey wrench into everything. A giant monkey wrench. Yeah. We know a lot of people that will say, I used to do that, but then I got married, or I used to do that, and then I had kids, and things kind of fell off a little bit. But you've not only kept fitness as a big part of your life, you continued to stay a coach, and you've done a lot of different versions of coaching. Now you have your own powerlifting team and stuff as well. But you also
Can we take a time out?
Can I go to the bathroom pee break? Yeah, go for it.
Pee break. You started talking about the kids, and I was like, oh man, you feel like a kid because all I gotta do is pee. Okay. 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 Well, I am moving around, and I was doing the pee-pee dance. So
yeah, you're like,
I was like, I'll stand on this leg and I'll be okay. This one, nope, none of this is working. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no, it's all good. So I was going to transition into talking about kids a little bit, so I'll start with this. You've had many different jobs over the years, changed, a lot of things in your life have changed. You even went through a divorce. You switched gyms multiple times. A lot of things have changed, but fitness has remained a huge part of what you do as your business, as your life, and then also with your kids. Your kids are involved in sports, and your kids are involved in fitness. I've seen them hit up some powerlifting meets and wear some of the slingshot products and stuff.
Yep.
It's been really cool. But a lot of people, will kind of, try to focus in and hone in on their career, while they're single and while everything's like, going as good as it can go. But, for you and I, we never really had control over that stuff. Things were just kind of going the way they were going. Life was just happening.
Yeah.
We were always trying to make things happen. You and I were always trying to figure out ways of having better income to support our families, but it took a while to figure all that shit out.
Right.
And things were just kind of moving and changing all the time. So what's the role of having, children? How has that changed things for you?
Completely. I mean, it's, completely for, a lot of good and, sometimes maybe not bad, but maybe not just the greatest, we'll say. I think for me, it was actually a real wake-up call when I ended up getting custody of the girls, and I had them almost all the time. I kind of had a realization where I was like, crap, like this is all on me now, where I have to make all this stuff happen. And I didn't have a choice, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes that's a great way to learn. Like, if you're going to learn a language, you go and, right. Just, you drop yourself in Mexico and voila, you learn kind of Spanish. And in this instance, it was like, okay, I don't have a choice because I got 2 kids that I got to take care of. and I gotta make something happen, or something else is gonna happen that I don't necessarily want. And it was just a matter of not giving myself a choice, not giving myself an out or anything along those lines. It was like, look, I have to do this stuff. I'm going to throw as much against the wall as I can all the time. Whatever sticks there and is, works, we're going to concentrate on that, but we're going to keep throwing stuff up there and, see how it all comes up. So, I mean, it's there, the girls are, the coolest things I've ever done. I tell them that all the time. And
they're 10?
They're 10, yeah. 10-year-old twin girls. And I tell them that all the time, and hopefully, maybe later on in life they'll understand what that really means.
They just make fun of you, probably.
They just
when you
do
say,
all
right?
the time, all the time.
They're like, yeah, whatever, Dad.
It's great, but yeah, but it's they're the reasons that I'm here. I mean, they're the only reason that kind of got me out of bed, and doing anything.
Yeah, it was a really crazy and rough time. You were, I mean, basically you were like sick. You weren't sick, but you were sick. Like,
I wasn't well. I'll say that for sure.
It was a tough thing to watch and to be involved with.
And credit to you and Andy, because I mean that was when I wouldn't have the girls, the other weekends when I didn't have the girls. Yeah. And when it started, and I had them like every other week, I was literally losing my mind.
Right.
And I, with people with kids can kind of understand like the noise. There's noise. Yeah. And it almost kind of it's like white noise, and it kind of calms you down a little bit, and it's just manageable. That there's stuff happening. When the girls weren't in the house and it was just me,
right?
I couldn't handle it, and then you start thinking stuff, and like your voices start talking to you, and I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. So I go over to your house. It was just madness. I mean, your wife was there. Your two kids are running around. That's when they're a lot younger, and then April was there, and it was all just madness all the time, and I could sleep. And I felt at home. I felt so great to be there. So I mean, again, just like anything, it takes a village. I mean, the really important, why I'm here has a lot to do with, watching you and Andy be parents and understanding it and how to make myself a parent, close to that, and do right by the kids. And it was that was I wasn't great for sure, but a lot of people kind of helped me through it. And, forever grateful for all that stuff. But also, I wouldn't change a thing.
Right.
I wouldn't change a thing because, I would, the relationship that I have with the girls, now is worth more than anything.
Yeah.
And, going through the whole process and, I remember, I would tell you stories when we would go on these seminars. Like, I got home, put the girls to bed, and I woke up 4 hours later, half asleep on the bed. All the lights in the house are on. The door is open. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And I kind of wake up and I'm like, oh man, I still haven't done, I still haven't taken a shower. I still haven't done anything.
Right.
It's just like, oh man, I get like 3 hours of sleep, but it taught me a ton about who I am, how I work, what I need to be successful.
Right.
And I think more than anything, it taught me what priorities really are.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta really, set your priorities right. You gotta have things in line. And when you're forced to only do something, take care of these two kids, you learn really, really fast who your friends are, who, who wasn't necessarily, and the limit of what friends are. And, because I mean, they're a friend, they're level friends. And, who you can rely on, who you can call when you're crying, and, who's going to help you out no matter what, who's going to come and pick you up.
Right.
And then also the people who are, just going to be glossary and just like, hey, let's go and have some fun. Let's do some stuff. So you learn a lot about, there wasn't greater life learning during that period. And, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, I remember, talking to you through that time. And, something I always try to do whenever I help somebody, I think
You're the worst. He's the worst because he's the worst, but he's also the best. I remember so distinctly coming over to your house and talking about everything that was going on and just getting crushed all the time. And then you proceeded to tell me a story about going to I don't know if you know this or you remember this, but going to a play structure with Jake. And Jake's just going nuts and doing all this stuff. And then he goes, you know who I saw over at the playground? I saw a guy whose kid was in a wheelchair. And that guy picked the kid up and took him on every single swing, on every single slide. He did everything with him. He carried him through it, and they just did all this stuff and along those lines. And all I can think of is like, you motherfucker. It's like but the take home message was like, your situation, while it may not be great, may not be ideal, at least you're not doing this, you know?
Yeah, everyone's healthy.
That guy was fucking strong.
Yeah.
To do that stuff, that's amazing. That's absolutely astounding amazing. You know, I get to, you know, coach a couple of, you know, special needs kids and, you know, along and stuff, and have done that throughout the years. And those parents, those are the people who are really strong. And to be able to take your kid and, you know, have him have those life experiences that our kids are lucky to have, and do something along those lines, and have them feel a little sense of normalcy or whatever you end up wanting to call it. That was strong. But that was such a lesson. It's burnt into my head. And it's always like, there's somebody out there who's worse off than you are.
Yeah.
And just to know that sometimes is like, okay, I'm not doing so bad. You know,
that guy's situation was so sad. You know, like any sort of health issue with your children's just, it's awful. But this guy, his kid was totally normal, and the kid had a fever. And then there you go. Like the fever, you know, messed with his brain, and then that was it, you know. And so he lost control, you know, over his legs and stuff like that. But I just remember asking him, like, you know, kind of like I just got in conversation with him, and I asked him how he dealt with it, and he's like, you don't really know how you're ever gonna like come out the other end of anything, but he's like, one day you just do, and then you're like talking to somebody else about helping them out, you know. And then that's what I told you on the phone. I was like, I don't really know, like, but if we had the ability to fucking fast forward like 5 years, I'm sure of it that you're going to be fucking okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to be talking someone else through a divorce or someone else through some sort of tragic thing.
And it's crazy because literally the next day I was at Starbucks, and there was a guy who I'd been trying to find. He went to the gym. He went to CrossFit Pleasanton, and his wife kind of took off, and he raised his daughter by himself. And I finally saw him. I was like, Johnny, dude, we got to talk. Let me buy you coffee. Can we hang out? He's like, I only got a couple minutes. So we stood in line together, and we ordered coffee. And I was just like, tell me something. Like, give me a hint. Like, tell me how you did this. What's the recipe? He's like, you'll be okay. I was like, no. He goes, look, I know who you are. You're going to be all right.
Right.
It'll be okay. I was like, crap. Okay. So just like, do it, I guess. Like, you're going to figure it out. He's like, I had to figure it out. The stuff that I had to figure out is probably not going to be the same thing with you. But you'll get through it because you got a good head on your shoulders, and you're going to work hard, and you're not going to let this beat you, right? Like, fuck no. Like, then you'll be fine. Like,
right.
All right. Okay. Those are like those two life lessons there. And then, you know, a couple things said to me by my mom and my dad. I was like, okay, all right. I'm actually prepared for this. I don't think I am, but I mean, you know, there's enough in here, and people believe in me. So I'm going to go ahead and believe in myself, and just kind of, you know, just roll that ball out there and, you know, hope for the best.
I think a lot of times when people look at somebody else, they think that there is something specifically special about that person that makes them a mom, that makes them a dad, you know, and then your view of your mom and your dad, like you put them up on this pedestal, right? And it's almost like when you're a kid and you see your teacher at the grocery store, and you're like, oh my God, Mr. Sullivan's like a regular person. He's got a wife. Ew, that's weird. What the fuck's going on? Why is he at the grocery store?
Yeah.
You know, and your parents are just people too.
Right.
And we get rolled in these situations that we're never ready for them. You're not prepared to have a kid.
No.
You're not prepared for really a lot of these things, a lot of the changes and moves that you've made over the years. It's all stuff that you just kind of learn on the fly. And I think the truth is what ends up happening to a lot of us is you unfortunately may just go into certain times of your life where you have to do a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you would rather have been with your kids every moment possible, but you had to pay for a babysitter. Like you had to do these certain things. Not that that's the worst thing, but we don't know. We don't know who's babysitting our fucking kids anymore.
I thought it was the worst. I thought I was a terrible parent.
that whole thing is so hard.
It is, because I mean, my mom.
But it's like, how do you not? You wait a second. You have to work.
Right.
You can't. Yeah. Like,
I mean, wrap your head around this. I was paying more in childcare than I was in rent at that time.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was making just enough to keep my kids where they needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up talking to my landlord. I was like, I can give you this. I can give you whatever it was at the time. Like, I know I can give you that per month.
Right.
And as things
well, you have to tell the landlord that. You have to tell, the cell phone people this, and you have to kind of bounce around and say, hey, I'm not a piece of shit like the other guy, but I will have the money at some point.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of people who are just like, okay, cool. It's like, look, I'm going to pay you as much as I can. I don't know when I can make it more, but I can guarantee you this. Like, all right, cool. And those are the companies that I'm still with.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then the companies who are like, no, we're going to send you collections. It's like, good luck getting your $1,000 back, lawn care, go fuck yourself. But the people, and that's something that kind of one of the things that my mom told me was like, there are people out there who are much more like me, my mom saying that, so much more like my mom, who do want to help you. Yeah. And there are people who don't want to help you. And I think that rings so true across the board. And I mean, you just think like,
I think everyone's out to get you every day, all day, almost like you're paranoid about it.
Exactly. But I mean,
all these motherfuckers, they want to fight me every day, holding me back. And it's like, not really.
There's a lot more people who want to help and who are willing to lend a hand here and there and, work with you, as long as you're willing to show them that you're working and you're working towards some end goal or whatever it is. So, I mean, that was a really, and God, I don't know, how old was I? Like 28 at the time. It took me 28 years to figure out that the world isn't plotting against me, that I can actually rely on people.
Yeah, when you're young, it really feels that way.
It does.
You really feel like isolated in a way, even though you're not.
No, and you never were. You know what I mean? You always had your mom and your dad, and you always had your brothers with you. And I mean, it's all, you had a huge clan, a huge, gang, whatever you want to call it. And then, it still have that kind of, that weird feeling, but that can drive you to, certain successes as well. But I mean, really knowing that there's a lot of people out there who want the best for you. They want to see you succeed and they want to help you succeed as well.
This could have drove you the opposite way though. Like, how come you didn't end up turning to like drugs or alcohol or anything like that?
Well, I mean,
a lot of people do. They get in this tough situation, they have a drink or two, and next thing you know, they're fucking stuck there.
Yeah. Well, I'd gone through a lot of battles with some chemical dependency and addiction early on, and really early on in my life. And I had my grandmother died of cirrhosis of the liver, and there's a lot of addiction and problems in my family. And I kind of learned early on, and I was like, you know what, I can either be like them, or I can be kind of completely different. And I chose to be completely different. And a lot of it was because of a high school coach. I was like, what are you going to do? You're just going to sit on, you're going to sit against the fence and smoke pot, or you're going to jump into the field and play? I was like, I want to play. It's like, well, then don't fucking sit against the fence and smoke pot with all these potheads. And I was like, oh, I see how this works. And, it just wasn't a good idea. I knew that it wasn't for me, because I loved it. I loved smoking.
Yeah.
I still to this day, like, man, that's the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life. I could go for a cigarette right now. Like, that makes no sense. Or I'd be, it'd be awesome. Let's go get fucking ripped, or whatever it ends up being. But I knew it was a terrible idea for me. I'd seen it in my family, and I'd seen it with close friends. And more than that, I saw it destroy my brother, like a slow moving accident. Just running into every fucking wall possible. And I knew that certainly wasn't the answer. And
it just really rips apart your family. It's like, well, why the fuck's anyone care about this one person drinking? Who's it hurting? But it's fucking killing everybody. It really affects or drinking or any drug.
Yeah.
It really rips apart a family, and is really extremely stressful.
It is. And I mean, I don't know if people will quite understand that if they aren't or haven't kind of gone through it, and they kind of look at the situation and they say, well, why can't you just stop? It's like, well, just like your brother, just like my brother, they can't. It's there's just something that they just won't. Won't. I don't know. It's the same thing at that point. And they're like, well, why does it bother you? Like, what do you mean, why does it bother me? Like, this is terrible. You know, my
passes
parents
out
are
on the couch and pisses on the couch and
my parents are fighting all the
gets in trouble
time.
with
And,
the
you know,
cops.
my
And
sister is running away from the house because she doesn't want to be there or anything in it. And
there's a lot of tears shed.
There's so much. And how much money our parents spend on Mad Dog or Seth to try and get, you know, legal fees, get them out of jail, you bail them out. You know, you try and pay for these, you know, camps or, you know, immersion things and just racking up the bills, you know. And it's one of those things where, you know, if you don't have a lot of money and then you have to deal with a lot of stuff and then you're dealing with legal fees and lawyers and judges, it's madness. It's especially for people who don't have a lot of experience doing that before. It's just completely insane to try and go through it. It makes no sense at all. It's you know, the whole rehabilitation aspect of things is it doesn't work. You know what I mean? The classic way of doing it, it's not great for people. It works for some people, you know, kind of like the AA side of things.
And there's a program that's free.
Absolutely. And it's amazing. But it didn't do anything for my brother. Yeah. I know it didn't do anything for Mad Dog. And it takes, you know, extreme conditions for them to really click on or learn.
It's tough, you know, when somebody has any sort of like mental health issue, which is hard to even figure out because a lot of these people are just, and my brother included, a lot of these people are just high all the time or drunk or whatever, and you can't tell if
you don't know which one, you know who you're talking
at.
to. Yeah.
And so for that reason, it's hard to get them treated properly, and it's hard to kind of figure out the whole thing. With my brother Chris, it was pretty clear that he was just depressed. He was lonely. He was still, you know, mourning my brother. They had a closer relationship because they're only like a year and a half apart, and so it killed him. I mean, when Mad Dog died, part of him died, and it took him a long time to recover from it. And I don't think he ever really realized it. He told me one time he was like watching a baseball game, and he started crying because like the Yankees won or something like that. My brother Mad Dog was a huge Yankees fan.
Yeah.
And he's like, then I sat there and thought about like why I was crying. He's like, I was crying because it was like the first day I was sober in a long time, but I was thinking of Mike, and I was like, oh my God, dude, like how come, you know, we never, but it's a hard thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Especially when somebody already fucking died from it.
Yeah. It's, and that's, again, no one's going to ever be ready for that. And I mean, I think you've done an incredible job because you were there for me, and I've seen you be there for other people because unfortunately, you know, Mike went before some other people did.
Yeah.
And, you know, to just tell people like, it's going to be okay. Hey, you know, and I mean, that's one of the reasons that I didn't turn to anything. You're like, you're not drinking or doing anything stupid, are you? I'm like, no, why would I do that? And you're like, okay, no, I just wanted to check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, how many times have,
who are you hanging out with? What are you doing?
Right.
I had to like check in.
How many times have we gone out to drink? Zero, you know, zero. It's never happened before, but now you're asking me this question. And I'm like, oh crap. Yeah. I guess some people do kind of do this and they go that way. But, you know, with the help from you and also just, you know, kind of some prior knowledge going through it, you know, that was just never an option for me. Yeah. And more than anything, it's like, can't be an option because I got these two girls.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's there's no other option but them.
You know, a lot of people just think like when they have children that their schedule gets so crazy, and then you'll hear people saying like they don't have any sleep. Well, back to what you said about priorities, it is difficult, and having twins makes it even more fucking crazy. But trying to adhere to a certain schedule can really help a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so when your kids are sleeping, you had to be sleeping. Yeah. You know, shit like that. Like you have, and it's hard.
It is.
It makes it hard because you're used to like your normal schedule, your normal routine. Well, now that's all fucking flipped upside down. There are some parents who get really strict and say, my kid's doing like this at this time just so they can get through their day.
Right.
Because it gets to be so crazy. And then putting him in childcare, or putting him in school, or having him in sports, probably having your kids in sports probably helped a lot because now they were both participating. They were both in the same spot together. You knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. Not only did I know what they were doing, but I'd gone through it myself. And, you know, sports played a huge part in my life, and, you know, organizing, scheduling, you know, everything along those lines. So, and I knew what they were being taught and, you know, how things were going to be structured. And it gave us a time to go somewhere, start something, end something, and then, you know, kind of come home.
They do everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, they started off doing
sports haven't they done?
There's probably a decent amount, but I mean, they started off with gymnastics, and then they kind of, and
they're good at basketball.
I
played basketball with them, and they're like, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. They were really. I was like, holy shit, these chicks are fast. The Burdick chicks are quick.
It's amazing because they pick something up, and then they, and I think because they are twins, they kind of have a built-in teammate, someone to play against. So they just play it all. They just play all that. Exactly. Because I mean, every 15 minutes they'd both come in crying. I'm like, oh my god, go back out there. You're fine.
Yeah.
But they would just get
10. I would say they're doing pretty good though. I mean, I know it's taken a long time, and I know there's been a lot of parenting that's had to go on, but they were respectful of each other, and we were all having fun. Yeah. It definitely got heated and a little competitive, but
well, it's always going to. I mean, that's what Bear Bryant would always recruit twins because you can't teach competition to people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Though they've been fighting for food.
Right.
So, in the womb for 9 months. You know what I mean? They're always going to be fighting. They're always going to be competitive, and if it's not with their sister, it's going to be with whoever else that you point them at.
Right.
They're going to be competitive. But I found out what was successful for the girls, and that was in school and kind of having some after-school activity. So I just basically wrapped my schedule around that because I knew that this was working for them. They're happy, they're healthy, they're growing, they're being great, and I just trying to keep that same schedule. Right. I would even keep like their nap schedule, like on the weekends when they were with me. Like, oh, it's nap time. We're gonna go ahead and do this, and I would end up taking a nap because. At that time, and we've talked about this before, like when we were kids and you'd see your dad and you're just out. I'm like, how did you fall asleep?
Oh, yeah.
Like standing up. You're like, I never understood that. Then I had kids and I was like, I can take a nap anytime you want me to. Like, you just give me a second, I'm out because I don't know if this is going to ever happen
excited.
again.
You're trying to tell your dad about a story about how you caught this, you dove for a ball or something, and he's out, right?
Huh? Yeah.
And you're like,
good job.
Yeah, pretends he was listening the whole time.
There's Katie has a picture or a video of me laying in bed with Sophia, and she's kind of next to me, and she's reading. And I'm out, and this is like when she was learning how to read, so we were doing some reading out loud stuff, and I am just absolutely just out, and she doesn't know the difference. She's still reading and just being great and doing the stuff. I'm just like, oh man, like I should never get comfortable. There's a tip for you. If you're a parent, don't ever get comfortable because you're gonna pass out almost immediately. It's like, oh, let's just lay down here.
Oh, yeah, like
what? It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, and then you're just toast.
You're just done. It's over. It's absolutely over. But that was always something that you were like, remember when you'd see your dad just pass out and you couldn't ever understand it? Like, yeah. It's like, do you understand it now? 100%, man. 100%.
Or even all the shit your parents told you. And then you catch yourself saying it. You're like, oh my God.
My dad.
I can't believe I just said that.
I know. It's great.
I say stuff about like safety stuff to the kids all the time, and they're way too old.
Oh, I know.
They're way too. Be careful. And I'm like, what the fuck? Where in the shit did that come from? I'm like,
you should be in like a nightgown with like rollers in your hair and shaking a stick. Be careful out there.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that's what Rosie looked like. Barb didn't look like that either, but I think you in a nightgown with rollers in your hair would be great.
Rosie does complain like that a lot. She talks like that.
That is true.
So that was pretty accurate account.
Rosie's great.
All right, we talked about just about everything possible here today, and so I think we're going to take this one in.
Awesome.
Reel her in. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. See you later.